Good time of day, guys! My name is Godzi, and welcome back to another episode of Higurashi When They Cry console arcs. Last episode, we began the game, and we began reading the first arc, Saikoroshi, which I did actually look back in some of my comments from Matsurebayashi, because I feel like I distinctly had at least one comment giving a suggestion on where to start, and thankfully I accidentally fulfilled that advice by starting with Saikoroshi. Cool, good. But yeah, I also did a cursory search to see how many arcs there are, and Christ, we're gonna be here a while. But yeah, today, for my drink, because it's not water today, I have orange juice. Because it's 10 a.m., I never had breakfast, and, you know, I wanted something with a little bit of kick in my life. So, there, orange juice. The bottle said that it expired in September, but, I mean, I drank a sip and it tastes fine. I'm doing great. Anyways, let's play, or read. Some would say it's a game you can read.
There's a lot less stores open, too.
When we went through downtown, with all its stores with their shutters down, Reina spoke up. Right, Reina. I didn't care about this world anymore. But as a classmate going home with her, I answered unconsciously.
I wonder why so many closed up. Well, it only makes sense. They can only do business until next year anyway.
Oh, You're implying the dam project's actually going through.
They're getting less and less customers, too.
I'm turning off my space heater, fuck you.
It's not strange that some would want to close up shop early. Why won't they do business after next year? They can't. They're getting evicted. Evicted? It sucks, but there's nothing we can do. And even if the village sinks, it won't destroy our souls, the ones that belong here.
I gave a start when I heard that. That couldn't... No, it was possible. In every single world, the story of Hinamizawa being submerged under an artificial lake was always present. But the Irie Institute, working from the shadows, would make sure that the dam project was cancelled. If there was no Irie Institute around to make them cancel it, that meant the dam project was proceeding as planned, and...
Then, the dam, well... I heard they decided to flood this area next year. I think it'll take quite a few days to submerge, but I don't really want to watch. Maybe after it's all a lake, but watching it go under would be sad.
Wasn't anyone opposed to it?
At first there were, but we can't be selfish when it comes to helping the nation grow. I don't really understand, but apparently the government people were really nice and talked to us a lot about it.
The dam conflict I was hearing from Reina wasn't even a conflict in this world. Everything regarding the dam was completely different from the worlds I knew. Everything's different, Jesus. They'd proposed the Hinamizawa Dam project, which was the same as the worlds I knew. Relations between the nation who wanted to evict us and the residents who refused gradually worsened and eventually broke down. It snowballed into a dire conflict over the dam. But in this world, it had been different from the very beginning. First off, relations between the country and the village were stormy at the very, very beginning, but apparently that was resolved quickly. The Sonozaki and Kimiyoshi families negotiated on the village's behalf, and they accepted the eviction on the promise of a large sum of compensation money. After that, the conversation was between the three families and the villagers. Nobody wanted to part with the soil of their ancestors. But for the villagers, who certainly couldn't be called wealthy, the money the nation would provide was no trivial matter. They worried over it to no end. Rumors flew about, wondering if Oyashiro-sama's curse would befall them if they abandoned these lands. but the Furude family head, my father in other words, declared we couldn't be cursed if we built Oyashiro-sama a new shrine somewhere else and remembered to honor him. Despite many objections, the elderly agreed on a cooling off period of several years. In addition to the compensation money, they demanded from the government the movement of the Furude Shrine, the graveyard, and its symbolic trees, in addition to the guarantee of a new place they could call Hinamizawa. And if those requests were fulfilled, they would consider agreeing to the eviction. The nation consented to this. They proposed preferential occupation rights of reclaimed public housing land in Shishibone. With regards to giving the town a new name, they considered the residents' proposal as most important, and they consented to the movement of the shrine, graveyard, and other locations as well. Wait, so, hold on. What about, fucking Okinomiya? But they implied Okinomiya's at a lower elevation, so wouldn't Okinomiya have also been flooded, or they're building the dam on the elevation change between Hinamizawa and Okinomiya? I don't fucking know. They probably said that and I just forgot because it's a pretty minor detail, admittedly. In conclusion, though there were several years of turmoil, the dam conflict never happened in this world. Everything was resolved through talking alone. And the villagers had actually agreed to the dam project. So, people are just already moving out of town, and that's why there's less kids in the school, I guess? Actual construction on the dam had begun a few years ago, and apparently construction vehicles were a constant source of traffic on the village's wider roads. And the eviction deadline was set at the end of April next year, so more than a few families had begun moving out in advance. One clothes shop's shutter had a worn paper notice on it. On it was written, "Our deepest gratitude for your many years of patronage." I spotted a few other notices with "opposed to the dam" on them, but those had deteriorated over time, a silent indication that the dam war was a thing of the past now.
I don't think all of the kids in class are moving into the public housing. Satoko-chan's family is supposedly moving somewhere else. It's a little lonely to think we won't be able to see all of our friends after next year. Meep.
The village I was born and grew up in being submerged was very sad. But, on the other hand, I want out of this place. But all my classmates, enjoying this day to the fullest even though they knew that, seemed so strong to me. And if the dam war never took place, that would cause several other effects. For example, the relationship between the Sonozaki and the Hojo families. At the beginning of the dam conflict, the Hojos declared themselves in favor of the dam, with the Sonozakis in opposition, and the former ended up a scapegoat of the village for a long time. But that trouble never occurred in this world.
Satoko-chan's family? I don't know, I think they're normal. I don't think they have much particularly in common with Mi-chan's family. Does Satoko get along with her family? Oh, you mean her father?
Even without the dam conflict, the presence of a stepfather would be a burden on Satoko's mind. And with the L5 symptoms appearing, she would push him from the viewing platform at the park, and be given into the care of her malicious aunt and uncle. Because her stepfather's presence would be the very gateway to Satoko's later unfortunate fate.
When I think about it now, maybe their awkwardness with each other at first made for a good memory. They aren't connected by blood, so they tried hard to be father and daughter, and maybe now they have a stronger bond than she would with her biological parents. I've talked to them a bunch of times, but he's a good person that works hard to support his family.
You mean Satoko's current father?
Yep.
Which meant in this world, none of the dice threatening Satoko had come up on a 1. For Satoko, did that make this world a happy place for her? My walk home with Reina was very significant for me understanding this world. and I found out that this world's composition betrayed every last bit of my common sense. The reason Reina wasn't Rena. That was different from the very start. Orange juice? Ah. Yep, still tastes fine. I don't know, maybe they just overestimate the expiration date. That part wasn't a joke, by the way. And I was checking to make sure it was still in date, and it said September 2023, and it was like, well, we'll test it, and it tastes fine, so... Hey, worst case scenario, I miss work later. Oh no. First, the Ryugu family didn't move to Ibaraki. They had lived in Hinamizawa this entire time. Oh. Her mother was still working as a designer at a small company in the city. Her father had switched careers, and now he was a salesman for his wife's designs. The couple must have been on good terms for one to design things and the other to sell them. So, the conflict with her parents never happened either. As always, her mother's position seemed to be stronger, but their relationship was an average one, and divorce at the very least seemed impossible. That's good. That meant a nice, peaceful family for Reina. That satisfied her fully, and she even said that she lived a happy life. The fact that she knew that without going through hardships, though, she really was still Rena. I asked about the Takano clinic, too. It was as the big Dr. Yamamoto had said. The Takano of Takano Clinic was indeed the one who had been Mio Takano's adopted grandfather, Hifumi Takano. Right after the war, he built a surprisingly grand clinic in Hinamizawa, which had no doctors and became a celebrity to the villagers. I learned that there was a monument dedicated to Takano in the place of the one dedicated to Irie in the worlds I knew. What monument? What? There was a statue of Irie? That's so fucking funny. Making a statue of someone who's still alive because he's the town doctor? Whatever. After Takano's passing, there was nobody to succeed his place in the clinic, and for a long time it had been left empty. That was when a man from Okinomiya named Yamamoto arrived and breathed new life into the clinic. I see. Takano had discovered the Hinamizawa syndrome and searched for research sponsors, but found none. And eventually, Mio Takano would succeed him. But what if the older Takano had found a sponsor? Neither Mio Takano nor Irie would appear, and the Takano Clinic being built right after the war would make sense. Which meant that Takano, in this world, had been blessed with good dice rolls. At this point, I had a vague idea about something. Weren't these dice rolls the exact opposite of the ones for the world I knew well? The people themselves hadn't changed at all, but the dice God had cast for these people were all reversed. So it made sense that it had turned into such a strange world for me. I learned one more thing from talking to Reina, too. In this world, I had no friends. I was all alone. Keiichi never transferred to our school, we didn't have a club, and Satoko had no connection to me. So maybe it was only natural. At that point, I finally realized why Reina had sympathized with me going home alone and done her going home club activities with me.
Okay, I'll see you tomorrow.
Huh? Oh, I see. For a moment, I was confused when she said goodbye, since we weren't in front of the temple, but I quickly understood. We were in front of the Furude main house. Since Takano never appeared, there was no Irie Institute, nor any research into Hinamizawa syndrome, and so, my parents never died. At first, my parents cooperated with the researchers, but when I fell ill with a high fever one day, they stopped cooperating, had some kind of trouble, and were assassinated. My mother was the hysterical type. When she made a fuss, settling her look down took a while. I don't know where I pulled the word look out of thin air, clearly. Settling her down took a while. And because she made a fuss, the Irie Institute, which wanted to do its research in secret, naturally wanted to make sure she didn't talk. She'd held such an attitude even knowing how shady the Institute was. So, in a sense, I couldn't deny that she reaped what she sowed. In any case, no matter how many times I did this over, no matter how many times I warned her, it never worked. And I had resigned myself to the fact that I no longer had parents by 1981. And I'd repeated it many times. I'd seen my parents for dozens of years in total, so I was fed up with them. We weren't on good terms to begin with anyway. And now, in June of 1983, they were here again.
I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, Nipa. After seeing Reina off, I looked at my real home. I saw my mother patting out a dried futon in the yard. In normal worlds, they would always die. But in this one, they were alive the whole time. I found myself unsure of how to talk to my real mother. Is that you, Rika? Welcome home.
Me, I'm home.
Go wash your hands and rinse out your mouth. And then get your books ready for tomorrow. Did you get any homework? Yes, she was my mother, alright. Honestly speaking, I wasn't used to the Furude main house. It was my true home, but it had only ever been my home before 1983. Like a prison of time while I waited in melancholy for the day Keiichi transferred here. But Keiichi wouldn't transfer here, and my parents wouldn't die. Which meant in this world, I would never get out of this prison. But maybe that was a weird way to think about it. Without a dead-end fate, there was no victory or defeat. No destiny or miracles. This was my actual home. It was nothing more, and nothing less. I went to my room, put down my book bag, and took a breath. So, question, Rika. Because you've looped through a several year span as it gradually shortened, did nothing ever happen outside of June? Like, it only ever happened in June? Like, nothing ever happened in, like, an October or a random April event? Like, no one ever did something funky with Hinamizawa syndrome on Christmas Day? Come on. This feels oddly coincidental, but whatever. Maybe there's a detail I'm forgetting. I don't know. I went to my room, put down my book bag, and took a breath. Usually when I was by myself, Hanyuu would appear. But in this world, she hadn't shown up. How long are you planning on wasting time? Hurry up and appear, and take me back to my original world. I knew by now this world was odd and filled with what-ifs. I'd headed up to here with my exploration of this alternate universe. But Hanyuu didn't appear. Oh, that's right. Hanyuu was by herself in the ritual storehouse a lot. Maybe she was there right now. In any case, whatever else happened, I just wanted to see Hanyuu. I put on my shoes and ran out towards the shrine. As I turned my back on my annoying mother who called after me, asking if I'd really rinsed out my mouth. What does that even mean? Like, oh, get some water? Is it just a euphemism? As if you need a euphemism for get some water? How about get some orange juice? Nice. Alright. In a world where my father was alive, it was hard to get the key to the storehouse. But thanks to the innumerable worlds I'd been through, I found a way to get into the storehouse without it. I could hear the elders having a pleasant talk in the assembly hall, my father's laughs mixed in with theirs. My father hated me even going near the ritual storehouse. Well, considering what it stored, I could sort of understand why he wouldn't want to let his beloved daughter inside it. After making sure nobody was looking, I climbed up a tree growing behind the storehouse. My climb didn't go as smoothly as when Satoko had shown me she could do it. In any case, I crawled up stubbornly and jumped down onto the storehouse roof. I was a little scared of jumping. I'd climbed pretty high off the ground. Even a, what the fuck, Centenarian witch can't escape the danger of heights? That's not a word I've ever seen. Okay. I can kind of guess what it means, though, based on the context. That's called paying attention in English class, friends. If I recalled right, there was a broken lattice window on the roof, and you could get in and out through there. It's gonna be fixed, isn't it? This world was betraying all my expectations and giving me the exact opposite. I considered that maybe you couldn't go in and out through it anymore. But in the place Satsuka once told me about, it was broken just like she said, and a child would be able to fit inside. Oh, no, it is broken, okay. Even trivial things like this were a relief. Maybe just the sun setting in the west would be a relief for me right now. Because in this world, it could always set in the east. Yes, this discomfort I felt at having to doubt everything made me feel dizzy and sick.
Hanyuu.
I should probably use her looper voice, right? Hanyuu, are you there? No answer. I was too afraid to call out again, because maybe if I did, I still wouldn't get any answer. For me, personally, Hanyuu not existing in this world was the one dice roll that couldn't happen. Hanyuu? Hanyuu! Then I felt something I couldn't describe. The presence of someone, but not of a person. Something only I could perceive. The presence of Hanyuu. Oh, she is here? But Hanyuu always answered me when I called for her. She wasn't now. What did that mean? She doesn't know you, I guess? But she was here. She was. I couldn't help poking my head through the roof. I climbed down a bundle of hanging chains and entered. Hanyuu! Hanyuu! Where are you? Answer me! Rika. Rika. Where are you? This time I heard her for sure. Oh, she does know you? There was no doubt. Hanyuu! I'm right here. Where are you? I can't see you at all. Rika. Rika. Answer me. Hanyuu's feeble words implied she was actually the one who couldn't hear my voice. I looked for a place where I could hear her better. Before I realized it, I went to the altar in front of the holy vessel. Something that looked like a small crystal ball was on the altar, and I sensed it giving off a faint light. That was where Hanyuu's voice seemed to be coming from. The ball was about the size of a large toy marble, but it was seated respectfully on a small cushion, which told me that it was no ordinary stone. I took the crystal ball in my hand and pressed it to my ear.
Rika, if you can hear me, please answer again. Rika. Rika.
There was no doubt. I was hearing Hanyuu's voice from this crystal ball, and it sounded like it was searching for me, growing more distant all the while.
Hanyuu, I can hear you. It's me, Rika. I'm right here. Rika. Rika. I can hear your voice. Where are you? I can't find you. Your voice is so distant, I don't understand. Please, call louder. I'm here! I'm right here! Why can I hear your voice from this crystal ball? Wait, no, that's not important. I'm right here, right in front of the altar in the storehouse. Hanyuu! Hanyuu! I can hear your voice. I'm searching for you now. Please don't let go of the fragment. Keep on calling my name. Louder. I'm here! Hanyuu! Come, hurry! Hanyuu! Hanyuu!
For a while, I kept shouting her name as if I'd gone mad. It was like clinging to a tin can telephone right before the string snapped. If Hanyuu's voice cut off in the middle, if she left me behind, alone in the darkness of the storehouse, that was scarier than anything else I could imagine. So, as she told me to, I shouted her name over and over again. Hanyuu had to be searching for me by listening for my voice. I didn't know what her situation was, but it seemed Hanyuu and I were far away from one another, that we were immeasurably distant. And as the crystal ball's light strengthened, I knew she was coming closer. At first, the light I sensed from it had been faint, but now it was bright as a weak miniature light bulb, and I could clearly see it was shining.
Rika, what's going on? I can't enter the world you're in.
What? What are you saying? I'm the one who needs help here. I don't care how. Just come here. Take me out of this world.
Rika, please listen carefully. For some reason, your world rejects me. This should be impossible.
Given that she's both a paranormal existence and a deity, I couldn't imagine any situation that would make her anxious enough for her to weakly say, this is impossible. All I could do was keep on wailing half insanely for her to do something. Anything.
But I can't do anything. Ow, 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 ow. This is the first time. This isn't possible.
Stop acting so miserable and hurry up and do something already! Anything!
I can't, Rika. Your world is giving off a power that rejects me. If you don't do something about that, there's nothing I can do.
Stop saying things that don't make sense! What do you mean a power that rejects you? You're a deity, that can't be!
You're right. It can't be. But there is no fragment on this side, so I can't line up the pieces. I don't know how, but the fragment is lost somewhere in your world.
Is that what you're holding?
Fragment?
What do you mean? Explain it so I can understand. I'll do anything I can. Continuing to act so deranged won't help with anything. I managed to figure out what Hanyuu wanted to say, and now I knew I had to eliminate the obstacle. The situation utterly escaped me, but it seemed like if I didn't do something, Hanyuu couldn't appear in front of me. I'm sorry for losing my composure. I'll calm down now. So explain again, please. What on earth is going on?
Rika, I don't know why this is, but part of a fragment which should be in the world of the gods seems to be lost in the world you're in right now. As an analogy, it's like the key you need to unlock a door being locked inside that room.
What's a fragment?
What appears as a world to you is called a fragment in the higher dimensions. We've been connecting those fragments like a jigsaw puzzle to walk between worlds.
I see. I think I understand the analogy. The world I'm in now is a fragment. Sorry, one moment. A piece of a jigsaw puzzle, but something happened to the part that connects to the rest, and it won't fit with the pieces around it, right?
That's right. That missing piece always has to be on the side. But now, for some reason, it's on that side instead.
The fragments should be in the world of the gods, but for some reason it fell into the human world and now it's missing?
That's about right. Ow, ow, ow.
Alright. I just have to do something about that fragment, right? I'll do what you say. Where is that fragment? And what should I do with it? Is this really the time to be owling? Where is that fragment thing? And what does it look like?
I don't know.
What? How am I supposed to search for it if you don't know?
I don't understand either. From here, I can only hear your voice. I can't interfere at all with that world as I am now.
But if it's called a fragment, then will it look like a glowing piece of crystal like this?
I think that's probably right. But I can't even imagine what shape it would take if something that belonged in a higher dimension ended up in the human world.
It's what you're holding. I felt all my energy drain out of me, and I heaved a sigh. We don't even know what it looks like. This is the worst. Anyway, if I do find it, what would I do? How would I get it back into the world of the gods?
Ow.
You don't even know that?
I'm sorry. It's the first time this has happened. I don't really know either.
I laughed, mostly at myself. And before I realized it, I couldn't stop my tears from falling. After getting sent to this crazy world, I don't even know how to get back. Car accident, that's how. Today, of all days, I was in such high spirits going to the pool with my friends. That tiny fragment of happy days we'd all finally obtained after escaping the dead end of June 1983. And just because I was messing around on the way back, just a little, I got sent to this horrible world. If I'm going to complain about that, in the end, it's my own fault for not being careful on the road, isn't it?
Oh.
I lost my balance on my bicycle, got thrown off, and then fell into the car there. A common traffic accident. A common death of a child. It just happened to be me this time. The future I'd won after over 100 years. Now, just because of that, everything was in pieces. I could wail all I want, but the only thing at fault was my own carelessness. In fact, I should be thankful to Hanyuu for letting me live. But sending me to a world like this, it's too cruel. No, it wasn't as though Hanyuu sent me here because she wanted to. I know that. I know that.
It's like you remember, Rika. Our power has been wearing away. And with the last of that power, we reached our victory. So we were never supposed to be able to use it again.
You mean you used that power to save me?
Yes. There was nothing else I could do. Rika, your body flew off your bike. And if the dice had come up better, you might have fallen on the car and made it out injured, but alive. But you were unlucky. And when you flew off, you landed right in front of the car's tires.
Oh, lovely. From Hanyuu's words colored with sadness, it felt like she watched me fly off, get run over by the car, and die.
Everyone had their mouths wide open, in a daze. The car's brakes screeched as it crashed into the guardrail, but nobody was listening. And then Satoko, she ran over to you, but you looked, your face was gone.
The car crushed my head flat. Chie was always talking about this, wasn't she? Never to play in the road. I could imagine the rest of the story without Hanyuu telling me. That fun day we had was wiped out in an instant by my careless fooling around. We dove together into the longest June 19th, 1983 of these past 100 years. And the peaceful future we finally reached through the sharing of countless miracles was wiped out in an instant. My corpse was too horrible to look at. Satoko came running over first, and then everyone else came, and they all wished they'd wake up from that nightmare, until they all lost hope, broke down, and wept. Compared to that heart-splitting sadness, the one who was actually careless, grumbling about wanting to go home since this world was uncomfortable, counted for nothing. Did that mean, in the end, it was all my own fault? I'd struggled through so many years to reach that future, and I'd carelessly lost it by nobody's fault but my own. And I was blessed since Hanyuu was here for me, so I should be thankful. Because if that had happened to someone other than me, they'd just lose their life, and nothing more. Just the fact that there was hope, even if it was only a single, tiny ray, surely meant I was fortunate.
Thanks.
Idiots die in accidents from carelessness all the time in Japan. And I was one of them. I should have just died without complaints. But thanks to you, even though things have gotten strange, I'm alive. And I'm sure it will be really, really hard. But there is still a way to return to that world. Let's review. To bring me back to the original world, Hanyuu, you need to come here, right?
Yes, of course. I want to return to the original world with you, Rika.
Naturally. We won that world after over 100 years of struggle. We're going back. I would spend another 100 years to do it. I won't lose. I won't lose heart. Just for fooling around a little on the road and being sentenced to another 100 years. That won't make me cry.
Rika, even in the world beyond, everyone is praying for you. They're praying that even if it costs them their lives, that you turn back time and make it so the accident never happened. I think those prayers were why I was able to find you, Rika.
In the storehouse, in which I could smell only dust, I thought I caught the scent of incense. I couldn't see it, couldn't hear it, but somehow I knew. It was my funeral, and I thought I could hear them, my friends heartbroken, grieving over my coffin. Their cries were incredibly sad, so painful, as though it would tear me apart. I understood. My carelessness. It had destroyed not only my life, but everyone else's happiness. I'll go back. I'm going back. I will return to that world no matter what. No matter how narrow the path may be. I'll do it. I'll go back for sure. I'm not good at voice acting with crying, okay? I mean, it's easier for me to cry now, but I can't exactly force it. Unless I want to, you know, make myself horribly depressed for, like, a few hours. And I'm not gonna do that for the sake of a video. Today, at least. Who knows, maybe someday I will, just for the bit. My tears, filled with sadness, mixed with determination, mixed with saltiness, dropped to the floor.
Rika, being locked in that world is the same as the dead end of 1983. It may look like an inescapable fate, but you absolutely can escape it.
I know. Keiichi taught me that. And even Takano taught me too. Fate was thinner than a goldfish scooping net. Great analogy. Right now. And strong enough feelings can reshape the future.
That's right, Rika. That's the spirit. Maybe it was because of your carelessness, but you've been given the chance to atone for it and make it go away. That's a really, really lucky thing.
I know. Normal people would be starting over in their next lives, but I alone got one last chance. I know what that means.
Rika, I want you to somehow find the fragment rejecting me. I'll see if I can figure out anything in this world.
I'll have to make do without any hints. Also, as long as you aren't in this world, if I die here, that's the end, right?
Yes. My power doesn't affect that world right now. So please, Rika, be really careful.
I know. I'll never fool around on the road again.
We don't have any hints, but I'm this village's deity, and this village is all I've ever watched over. If this power can interfere with me, then I think the power must be in the village, too.
Somewhere in this village. If it has anything to do with you, to be honest, I think it would be in this ritual implement storehouse.
Rika, is there anything in that storehouse that isn't in the usual worlds?
Oh, well, Oh. This is awkward. I don't know. I can't tell right away. There's no proof it would be obvious, right?
If it's enough to interfere with me... Rika, you've stepped into places incredibly close to the world of the gods before, so you might be able to sense it.
Another thing to worry about. I don't think anything on this altar, including this crystal ball, has changed at least. Oh, that's usually there? But this is a strange crystal ball. It's interesting how, for a mere marble, it's on display in such an important place.
Right now, you're holding the Frude Shrine treasure. the Kamu no Mikoto no Ri. Long ago, when I performed a miracle at the Furude Shrine, I left it there as proof. After such a long time, most of the power inside is gone. But luckily for us, it's the only source of power I have that affects you. If I had more power, or if I could prevail against this, I might have been able to go to the world you're in. Which means I'll only be able to talk to you with this crystal ball for a limited time. Yes. Rika, can you hear my voice? From here, your voice sounds like it's slowly fading away. I get it. It's like a transceiver about to run out of battery power. Alright, I won't contact you unless it's important. That way, we can talk for a little bit longer, right? Probably. Then, that's enough. I'll rummage around the storehouse now. It could be hidden anywhere if it's the same size as this crystal ball. And it might not be in the storehouse either. I'm going to need perseverance for this job. Rika, please do your best. All I can do is stay here and cheer for you. And even the words I can use for that are limited now. It's fine. Mark my words. I'll open the door to this world and invite you in. I promise we'll go back to that fun world together. So you do your best too. If you learn anything that could be a clue, tell me. I will. Then that's it. I'm going to stop talking now. See you again, Hanyuu. I promise. Once we get back to the last world, I'll fill the refrigerator with cream puffs for you. I'll look forward to that promise. Hanyuu's voice gently vanished, like water seeping into sand. But that didn't mean Hanyuu had vanished. It was kind of like I was talking to Hanyuu on a public phone and my 10 yen ran out. We may have been in different worlds, but we were cooperating, trying to get out of this world and back to the last one. When I thought about it, Hanyuu had always been an ally in my life. In this world, that ally was gone. Maybe that was a fitting punishment for wasting my life by being careless. To get back to the last world, I would pile up as many stones as I need to. For these were the banks of the river Styx. Nirvana, from my viewpoint, is one who had lost her life in the previous world. But I'll get back. I swear I'll get back there. Then, suddenly, the inside of the storehouse brightened. Someone had just turned on the switch for the naked bulb hanging from the ceiling. And then, with a heavy clank, the door opened. My father appeared there. His face was like a demon's. Oh, great. Ah, that was right. I'd entered the cordoned-off ritual implement storehouse. Silly me. I only received the right to enter the storehouse when I succeeded them as the head of the Furude family. In other words, in a world with my parents alive, I wasn't allowed to come in here.
Rika! How did you get in here? How many times have I told you to never enter the storehouse?
My father was in a rage. Thanks to the property imprinted into one's very genes that made children tremble when their father looks at them with a scary face, I reflexively cringed with fear. I don't think that's universal, Rika. I'm just saying. Granted, I don't think my dad has it in him to be scary ever. To be fair, Rika's been, 11 for a century, so I guess, yeah. He grabbed me by the back of my neck and took me outside. Oh, okay. Yeah. And then I ended up being disciplined, something I'd forgotten for a very long time. My parents being here is such a bother. What if I killed them? This world actually isn't all that different. It's just Rika has Hinamizawa syndrome this time. Just when I thought I'd been lucky that they made it through the year 1981, they're getting in the way of me returning to the final world. And it is 1981 right now. In fact, it's 1979, and she's like 5. But she just doesn't know it, because she's deluded. In the storehouse, I'd been shouting Hanyuu's name pretty loudly, so he'd probably noticed.
I would investigate the storehouse for real tomorrow, but I'd have to take extreme caution so that my father didn't find me. In the middle of the night, unable to sleep face up on my futon because of my rear end swelled up from all the spanking, I bit my pillow and cried again. Oh, fucking 1980s. Yeah, people who were adults in that era are totally level-headed humans. Even more so if they're alive today. No. In the middle of the... I bit my pillow and cried again, then thought back over what I had to do. This was my room. This was my futon. But this wasn't where I was supposed to sleep. The futon I was supposed to go home to was in the small house on the second floor of the renovated warehouse, the one next to Satoko's. Wait, what? Oh, the futon next to Satoko's. Okay, I was gonna say, that's not next to Satoko's house, that's across town. But in this world, the youth group was probably still using it as a meeting place. So my futon obviously wouldn't be there. Then, what futon was I supposed to use in this world? Punishment for doing something stupid and careless, bringing the future we all won to nothing. I needed to find what was keeping Hanyuu away so I could call her here. It would take a lot of effort. For that reason, I needed to build up my energy and get some sleep. Shedding tears was nothing but a waste of time and stamina. I knew that, but until I fell asleep, I wept into my pillow. Finally, a chapter break. Alright. I imagine this arc won't be all that long, right? Probably shorter than Himatsubushi, even. Oh, another 83. Find yourself in a different world. Thanks. Alright, I mean, we're at the 47-minute mark, so I'll keep reading. Why not? I'd hoped Satoko would be there when I woke up that morning. I'd hoped this baffling world was just a half-awake dream of mine. So when I awoke, not to a familiar ceiling, but to the one in the Furude main house, I could feel nothing but disappointment. My mind hazy, I recalled the situation I'd been put into. Thanks to my own carelessness, I'd gotten lost in this strange world. Hanyuu's power couldn't reach here, so it would be incredibly difficult to escape. It was like trying to climb up the spider's thread to paradise. But the spider's thread was still there. No matter how thin it was, its presence meant there was still a chance to discover what was blocking Hanyuu's power. And I didn't even know what it looked like. The only possible clue was that Hanyuu was the deity of Hinamizawa, so it was probably in the village somewhere. I picked up the crystal ball, which I'd snuck out of the ritual implement storehouse. The ball gave off a weak and somehow unnatural light. I pressed it to my forehead, and I could sense a faint presence that only I, as a witch, could feel. I was sure that whatever I needed to find, I would get the same feeling from it as this. But again, like the crystal ball, I'd probably have to hold it to my forehead to sense anything. It didn't seem like things would be as simple as wandering about until I felt something. But if it was related to Hanyuu's power like the crystal ball was, it was almost certainly in that storehouse. Unfortunately, the storehouse was a complete mess of everything from ancient torture devices to piles of old documents to mountains of trash I didn't even know how to use. The only place with any semblance of cleanliness was the space around the vessel and the altar. Finding anything, especially an object as small as this crystal ball, would be no simple matter. Rika! Eat your breakfast and hurry on to school! I heard my mother's voice from the kitchen. The school in this world wasn't the one I went to. If I had the time to go somewhere I didn't belong, then I should be using it to search the storehouse. But there was no proof my search would only take 1 or 2 days. I really hate to say it, but since I didn't even know what it looked like, maybe I needed to prepare myself for the search to take years. If I didn't go to school, Chie, ever conscientious, would call the house to see if I was staying home that day. If that happened, it would cause trouble with both the school and my parents. I couldn't imagine how much time this search would take. If my parents grew suspicious, things would get harder. Slow and steady wins the race, I guess. Although it was frustrating, for weekdays it would be better to pretend I was going to school like normal. I let out a languid sigh, got up, and decided to eat breakfast. During mealtime, my mother's ramblings about how I was never allowed to go into the ritual storehouse again steadily made the food taste worse. Speaking of food... delicious. My mother was always insistent and long-winded. I hated this part of her. The elders in the village laughed and said she couldn't help it, since she did it for her only beloved daughter. But to me, she was just a nuisance. You know, maybe orange juice wasn't the best idea to have during a video, because even though it's really good and refreshing, it makes my mouth water like crazy. So it's hard to just swallow it and then go right back to reading. Tough love wasn't what I needed at the moment. The only thing I could be thankful for was, maybe, that I didn't have to make breakfast for myself. But I could do it on my own, so I almost would have rather she left it to me. After I was done eating and started getting ready for school, my mother continued to nag me about making it on time. How aggravating. Maybe going to school wasn't so bad. I wouldn't have to see my mother's face for half a day. I thanked her for the food, cleaned my plate and utensils in the sink, and left immediately for food. I'm still hungry. Hey, Escuela. How ya doing? If everything was going to betray my expectations anyway, I wish class would too. But even in this world, class went the exact same way as the world I knew. I thought I'd escaped that world, but now it was repeating. Thinking that way made me feel even more listless. Normally I'd distract myself by teasing Satoko, but her seat was far away from mine. She was probably also so bored with class she didn't know what to do with herself. Satoshi, earnestly studying in the next seat over, was constantly trying to get her to focus. Mion seemed to be butting into Reina's business too, but they weren't fooling around. It was a strange, though pleasant, sight. They were helping one another learn. Actually, they weren't the only pleasant sight. Everyone in the classroom was like that. I felt like I was the only one left out. I didn't know whether my seat was in its own row because of the odd number of students, or if I'd chosen this seat on purpose in this world, but it felt like my seat was separated from the rest of the classroom. When lunchtime came, I felt even more alienated. My classmates formed groups with friends and took out their food. The club members who would always eat with me weren't here. Satoko was part of a circle of several friends, including her brother. There was no place for me to wedge myself into. Mion and Reina were sitting face to face as they ate. No room for me there either. And nobody asked me if I wanted to eat with them. And they had fun eating their own meals, so this seemed natural, like it was something that happened every day. For a short while, I waited, hoping for Satoko or Mion or Reina to invite me over. After the clock's minute hand had moved 5 and then 10 places, I realized I might even be left behind in eating. And finally gave up and opened my bento box. Inside were the leftovers of last night's burned Hamburg steak and white rice with nori seaweed that was now sticky. Spinach wrapped with gooey nori. And the remains of kinpira with chopped burdock root, also burned. I guess I'd forgotten about that. For some reason, my mother overcooked everything. "Summer is dangerous if you don't let the heat in" was a favorite phrase of hers. She would cook steaks until they were rock hard, and even when she made fish, she'd turn half their insides to ash. Even Satoko was better than that. At least she knew how hot to cook things. And when I learned how to cook from Hanyuu and started to make things better than my mother, she must not have been happy. It tasted terrible too. No presentation either. If Mion decided to have a bento contest and I only had this, I'd end up in last place. But there was no club in this world, so I didn't have to worry about that. Satoko's happy laughter not being directed at me made me feel sad. Suddenly, our eyes met. Did my feelings get through? Satoko burst out of her seat and glared at me.
What are you staring at? If you have something to say, say it!
I don't have anything to say. Stop it, Satoko. You just happened to look at each other, didn't you?
It didn't just happen. She was staring at me this whole time. It was getting gross, come on!
Satoko and her friends began whispering amongst themselves while looking at me. I couldn't hear what they said, but I could easily imagine them enjoying themselves.
I'm sorry. I won't stare at you. I hope not. You were making my cream croquets taste worse. Croquettes?
I don't know. I angled my desk a little so that I couldn't see Satoko and the others. At first I had called this world Satoko cold, but it looked like I was mistaken. This world's Satoko either didn't like me or outright hated me. And the other kids close to my age seemed to have formed a community around her, with no place for me in it, so they all hated me too. The hardened ash-like steak tasted of salt. Why did I have to feel this sad and lonely when I ate? In all of the other worlds, all the club members would be enjoying lunch together. Satoko would be there, and Rena, and Mion, and Keiichi. Everyone would be having fun and spending their break cheerfully and noisily. That was when Reina came over and peered into my bento box.
Rika-chan, you have steak and spinach for lunch today? That looks good.
It was clear that Reina had come over to try and comfort my distress, and for some reason, that was frustrating, so I didn't want to answer her. When I stayed silent, she held out an octopus-shaped sausage in front of me.
I'll trade your spinach for my octopus, okay?
Reina, trying to be nice as I ate lunch alone, hated by my classmates. I just couldn't accept it. I suddenly said I was going to wash my hands, then left. And in a bathroom stall, I covered my face with toilet paper and cried. Okay. I don't know why you would use the toilet paper, but whatever. The tears soaked through the paper and crinkled it up, but I didn't care. This was fine. It was better if I didn't have friends in this world. I had plenty of friends in the one I needed to return to. There, even Satoko was my irreplaceable best friend, and all the club members, who would never leave me alone during lunch hour, were waiting for me. Why would I be sad that some Satoko I didn't know was being mean to me in a world I didn't care about? Why would I be? But despite the lies I told myself, I couldn't stop crying for a while. I decided to steel my resolve and wait for school to end. Then I'd run back home, say I was going out to play, and sneak into the ritual implement storehouse again. That was the only way I could get back to my original world. I had to try and do my best for that purpose alone. Okay. I looked into the mirror in the bathroom to see a face red from crying. If Chie saw me like this, things would probably get even more complicated. Where the fuck was she during that? There is a teacher's lounge in the school, right? But isn't it just an office? I washed my face, then spent the rest of lunch break quietly in a corner of the classroom. After school, I literally dashed out of the building. It would be a huge pain if I ended up caught in the rush of the other classmates as they headed out to go play. I think Satoshi called after me, but I ignored him. He was probably just trying to apologize for his sister about what happened during lunch. I didn't care about that. I didn't want to stay in this horrible world a second more than I needed to. I ran full speed back to the house, ignored my mother when she asked as usual if I had any homework, and searched for a lantern. Then I told her I was going out to play, and without waiting for a response, burst out of the house. Then I went around the shrine and looked for my father. I saw a note hanging on the assembly hall that said there was a Shrine Association meeting. I could hear my father's voice amidst the lighthearted chatter. It was the same opportunity I had yesterday. Today I'd have to be careful not to let on that I was inside. After making sure nobody was looking, I climbed up the tree I'd gotten the hang of yesterday. I had been scared of the height before, but I wasn't afraid any longer. Probably because I'd cried my eyes out and resolved myself during lunch. What I really had to be afraid of wasn't heights, or my parents, or the cold-hearted Satoko. It was not being able to return to my original world. The next scariest thing would be losing contact with Hanyuu, I think. In the darkness of the storehouse, I took the crystal ball out of my pocket. Its weak glow seemed a little more energetic than yesterday. Maybe if she rested, a little of her power would come back. Nevertheless, it was still weak. If I wasted it on fruitless conversation, the light might go out entirely. I firmly squashed down the desire to check and make sure I could still call her and turned on the lantern. It was time to go treasure hunting. Was there anything around, anything only I could feel? Something that felt the same as this crystal ball? Somewhere? I closed my eyes, honed my senses, and hoped. But all I heard were the cries of cicadas. I hadn't expected anything else. It looked like this would be a tough nut to crack. Too optimistic. Phew. Searching the entire storehouse. How much time would that take? I didn't want to imagine it. But I had to do it, or I couldn't go home. I'd do it systematically. Start in the corner and go in order. Without knowing what it looked like, I'd start in the corner and go from there, not even letting water past. And despite all that, I had no proof it was even in here. I felt like it'd be easier to just fight Takano and the mountain dogs again. Well, she didn't get in trouble that time. Another day. Another night. The following night, I suppose. Hello?
I don't think it's going to get any weaker. I can hear your voice about as loudly as I could before. Which means, like always, it'll only get to you weakly. I guess there was no need for us to chat. No, I think chatting is exactly what you need to do right now, Rika.
Maybe. Thanks. I'll talk now. I'm pretty sure I searched the storehouse as well as I could, but I have nothing. I searched for about a week, but I don't even know what the thing I'm searching for looks like. And even if I did find it, I might have put it down again without realizing.
Ow, ow.
Honestly, this is really hard. If only I knew what it looked like, or had some proof it was in this storehouse. Being locked in here for so long is going to make me go crazy.
I understand. I know it's a very difficult search. I'm doing my best too, to see if I can at least find out what the fragment looks like.
And? Did you find anything out?
Rika, in your world, fragments are interpreted as feelings. When those feelings reside in something, they become fragments.
I understand the logic, but that doesn't give me much of a hint.
Oh. And as for how to return the fragment to this world, I think that it needs to lose its form in that world.
What does that mean? Do I have to break it?
Yes, and completely. If it's lost from the human world, you can send it to the world of the gods.
Do you know about the law of conservation of matter? It's impossible to destroy something completely.
How do you know? You're 11.
Shut up. I've read a few books.
Well, that's why I'm saying you only need to destroy its form. Understand, Rika? Even in ancient times, people used methods like this to send things to the gods.
I see. Alright. A way ancients sent tributes to the gods. A way to get rid of something from the human world. You're telling me to burn it. Burn it into ash and send it into the sky.
That's right. By burning something to ashes, it loses its form, loses its meaning, and vanishes from the human world.
I see. So I need to burn whatever is housing the fragment. I pray that it's easy to set on fire. If it was a boulder, I'd have to throw it into a blast furnace or something.
Actually, Rika, the fragment might not only be in an object, it's possible it could be in a person, too.
I see. Because the fragments are feelings. They might not only reside in objects. But, Hanyuu, if it was a person, what would I do? You're not telling me to burn them to ash, I'm sure.
The meaning of a human disappears the moment they lose their life.
That would make sense. Corpses aren't people anymore. So if the fragment is residing in a person...
Ow.
I'd believed until now I'd been searching for an object, but maybe it doesn't even have to be that. I'd have no problem burning an object, but if it wasn't an object but a person? I mean, metaphorically speaking, that wouldn't be the method to get back to your world unless it's you that you have to kill. Like, that's literally it. You're the only person where that could apply. Because it's like, oh, the fragment's in Oishi. This is now the main conflict of the story. We have to go kill Oishi, Hanyuu.
What?
We have to kill Oishi. It's the only way. No, that doesn't make sense. This is a fictional story, so the answer was made by an actual person, which means it's not gonna arbitrarily be an Oishi. Oh, right. Kumagai, get over here. So it's either, if it's a feeling, it's Rika's own feeling, right? It's in Rika. It's the only thing that makes sense. Her, or maybe Satoko? But obviously she wouldn't have to kill Satoko. Like, if the fragment is a feeling, you destroy the feeling. That's about it. I mean, if the only, like, super major nonsensical difference in this world is Satoko's hatred for Rika, then maybe it's just as simple as making Satoko not hate her. I don't fucking know. Whatever. I don't like this. This world. For some reason, only the bad ideas turn out to be true.
I can only pray it doesn't turn out like that.
If only bad ideas turn out to be true, then I could take advantage of that and search there first. If it was a person, they'd be closely connected to Oyashiro-sama, right?
Yes, most likely.
Is it possible it's me?
No, it isn't. If you were the fragment rejecting me, you wouldn't be able to talk to me right now.
Okay. Which means, next is my father, head priest of the Furude Shrine, and my mother, carrier of the Furude lineage. If it was one of them, I'd just have to kill them, right?
Ow.
My human morality refused the idea of killing my parents. But that was nothing a world-crossing witch needed to think about. For someone with a true world somewhere else, this was a false world. Maybe my Hinamizawa syndrome theory was right, meaning it was the same as a dream. Murdering someone in a dream was no different from doing it in a delusion or a daydream. I personally have never had dreams where I kill people, despite joking about it, but okay, Rika, yeah, go off, queen. Commit your murders, go hard, go crazy. There was nothing to consider about committing the sin in this world. Hanyuu was making sad ow-ow noises, so I told her how I felt. Stop being such a hypocrite. Would you rather give up on returning to our original world?
Ow.
You're a coward. You're going to force me to dirty my hands while never dirtying yours. Convenient, isn't it? If you can blame it all on one person, nobody else will be marked with sin. I'm the perfect human sacrifice. Nah. I felt those words were a little harsh on Hanyuu. For a short while, she remained silent, not saying anything. But her breathing made it sound like she wanted to say something, but was hesitating. I want to go back to the final world and meet up with Chirithy. What's a Chirithy? Oh, oops. Reference to something else. Rena said this once. I wonder how much we're allowed to struggle in order to be happy. I didn't think there was a limit to that effort. But Keiichi changed that. There's no limit to effort. But you have to talk to a lot of people to get their advice on whether your efforts are misplaced or not, and then collect 100 clones of yourself. That's why I was talking about it with Hanyuu, the only one who shared my current situation. And Hanyuu said that if the object possessing the fragment was a person, I had to kill them. She didn't say that. She said the fragment is a feeling. And I guess, yeah, you could dispel a feeling by killing someone, but still... I would want to avoid that, of course, if there were any other way. But if she said that was the only way, then I wouldn't hesitate. That was all.
I want to go back too.
Yeah, me too.
I'll be praying that the fragment isn't held by a person.
Okay, no, she is implying you have to kill him. Okay, jeez.
Please do.
I will too. And I apologize. I was too hard on you. All you can do is look for clues and keep my spirits up so I don't get discouraged. I didn't understand how annoying it must be not to be able to look for the key yourself.
It isn't as hard as it is for you, Rika. The only thing I can do is at least be here to care for you so that your heart doesn't tire out.
Thanks. These idle chats with you are the most enjoyable thing about this world. It's like I wake up from the nightmare for a few minutes.
Ow.
I see. I sort of understood why she said chatting could be important, because she told you what you have to do. Hanyuu was the only one I could talk to from my original world. If I lose contact with Hanyuu, maybe my very connection to that world would weaken, and my memories would blur. And that would simply give birth to a miserable, broken-hearted girl, living a delusion that this world wasn't the one she belonged in. Leave it to me. I swear we'll go back there together. You keep looking around for any clues you can find. If there are any developments on my end, I'll contact you again.
I understand. Rika, hold it together. Go for it, yay! Remember?
Yay. I couldn't hear Hanyuu anymore. The crystal ball's light had grown weaker than ever. But as long as it had its otherworldly glow, then I could keep believing this wasn't the world I was supposed to live in. Before, I might have shed a tear or two by now, but all the tears I could cry had dried up. I gripped the crystal ball tightly, savoring the cheer Hanyuu had given me. Do your best. Go for it. Yay! I moved over to a spot with a pile of old documents. If it could interfere with Hanyuu, it had to be related to the legends of Oyashiro-sama. So maybe, I thought, a clue would be written in one of the documents in that pile. Maybe even if the thing I searched for wasn't in here, I could find a clue to it instead. Christ. I don't know why that sound scared me. I took a few documents from the pile and packed them into the knapsack I brought with me. I could read some, but couldn't understand any of the others. If something important was in one of the indecipherable ones, I would have no way of knowing. But I shouldn't think about that right now. I pulled out the few documents I could read and decided to read them in secret at school and in bed. As I went in and out of the storehouse, the chances of my parents finding out increased. In that sense, this would lower that risk, which made it a little easier for me. Maybe parents did understand their children best, and would be the first ones to help them. But that was when they were normal, and not a witch like me. If their daughter started babbling about not being from this world, they'd probably tie her down and summon a noisy ambulance. If I were a little more cunning, I could flatter my parents and put the work in to make this world a little more bearable. But the more I thought about this world not being the one I lived in, the more apathetic I felt towards interacting with those who were here. That was probably why it seemed like I was being more and more isolated in class. Of course, maybe you could say that was my own fault. That was the kind of world that this was at the moment I arrived. I won't dare let anyone say that this is my fault. Of course, not a single person could tell the difference between Rika Furude and me anyway. Who is me? The me that isn't Rika Furude? Who is she? Okay. I came around to a quiet electronic beep. I should probably stop soon, but I don't care. I got time. I'm going. I looked at my watch and noticed it was already evening. Being in here made me lose track of time. The other day, I was out way past curfew and was scolded for a long time. The alarm on my watch was to prevent that. Letting my relationship with my parents grow any worse would make everything else more troublesome. I should call it quits for today. With practiced motions, I climbed up the bundle of chains and headed through the exit in the roof. And then my dad was out there. When I returned to the main house, surrounded by the cries of Higurashi that I'd grown completely tired of, there was a tightly packed case of beer near the front door, and 3 bottles of wine. The beer case was probably for a drinking party at the Shrine's Assembly Hall or something. My father didn't drink beer because he liked it, so I knew it had to be for the Assembly Hall. They delivered it here before the party so he could chill it beforehand in the Assembly Hall refrigerator. And the wine probably belonged to my father. My father enjoys Western spirits and wine most of all. And wine at the same time was something I enjoyed as well. After my parents had died in 1981, I'd gotten wine by bringing it from the main house. But my parents were alive in this world, so I couldn't do that. Or could I? I stared at the bottles longingly as I tried to open the door. I like how the cicada sounds worked with that joke delivery. Thank you. Thank you, game sound effects, helping me out. Receiving the clack of its lock in response. I took a key from my pocket, unlocked the door, went in, and saw a note addressed to me right upon entering. It was from my mother. The note said an accident had suddenly occurred at the Kimiyoshi house, and they'd gone out to help with a memorial service. They'd be late coming back, and so on and so forth. Written as a postscript was a notice that the brewer would be bringing alcohol, and to take it inside the front door once I got back for them. I see. That must have been referring to all this. What's all this, then? If the person had come while I was here, I could have told them to put it inside, but I couldn't bear to see them outside like this, put here before I got back. And it would be a pain if my mother started rambling about me being inconsiderate later. I made a sour face, not caring who saw, and pulled the case of beer through the front door. Next, I stood before the wine bottles and solidified my thoughts. Couldn't there have been a slip-up with the order? It was a brewery in a small village. If my father called to say he'd order one more bottle, they'd probably bring over another one without a second thought. And ring cameras haven't been invented yet. How do I know those exist? I've read a few books. So what would it matter if one of these disappeared? I always dilute it before drinking, so I'd be able to enjoy one bottle of wine for a pretty long time. Despite being in the entrance, I belatedly looked around, grabbed the bottle, ran into my room, and then pushed it into the winter futon in my closet that I wouldn't use for a while. Actually, my parents live here too, so I won't have many chances to drink. I ran to the kitchen, grabbed a glass, ice, a corkscrew, and a carton of orange juice. Yo! Girl! Cheers! Delicious. Then ran back into my room. I put the corkscrew on the wine bottle and was overwhelmed by the urge to wet my tongue with the nostalgic flavor as soon as I could. How was I supposed to survive in this world without enjoying a good wine? I poured some into the glass, and just listening to the orange juice splashing in to fill it up made my mouth water like a dog. If I dilute it this much, it'll just look like orange juice from the outside. But it was the nostalgic flavor that belonged to my world. At one time, this had been the flavor of my tears of defeat, shed for the unbreakable June of 1983. But now, even those tears of defeat felt sweet and tender. Those dead-end worlds were very painful, but I was still surrounded by my kind friends. I had the leeway to choose to surrender to Takano and continue lazily living in that infinite loop. But even that warmth was absent in this world. This made a week now since I came here. With no prospects of returning to my previous world, I'd resolved myself to staying here for a long time. But a week in, it had already driven me to drink. Nice. It'll be fine. Those worlds had driven me to the same state. And I still managed, lazily doing my best as I soaked in wine, right? I needed to be released from this Rika Furude quickly. Nobody in this world would understand that, even if I explained it. That meant I had no allies here. If I told someone, they'd think I'd gone crazy. But considering this world's Rika Furude, that was only natural. This world's Rika Furude was a dour girl without a single friend. And one day, she'd been hit by a ball in the schoolyard and started saying she didn't belong in this world. If that big Dr. Yamamoto heard about this, he'd probably make a huge fuss about the impact having caused brain damage. But that would make the most sense to the people who live here. At the very least, until I arrived, Rika Furude was Rika Furude, the correct being for this world. Maybe it was more appropriate to say that one day, I, someone different from this world's Rika, appeared, then took over Rika's body. Right. Am I not Rika Furude? Well, no. This world's Rika Furude was this world's Rika Furude, a different being than me. I'd simply been interpreting her as being the same as me, even when I was in different worlds, until now. When I thought about that, leaving aside whether I'd been living happily, I felt like I'd done something bad to this world's Rika Furude. Of course, it was too late to apologize now, and I couldn't give this body back to her anymore. If there was a way to apologize, it would be to acknowledge this world's Rika Furude as a being of her own. Because if I called myself Rika Furude, the girl who already existed would vanish from this life. Which meant the only way to apologize was to not call myself Rika Furude. Well, that had been bothering me for a long time. I've long felt that my young self, pampered as the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama, and my old self, who had awakened and traveled countless worlds, had different personalities. But if I thought of them not as personalities, but as different beings entirely, right now, I was no longer Rika Furude. Who am I? I stared vacantly at the wine bottle. Did I like this brand? My father always loved to drink this wine. As a result, I'd borrowed it in countless worlds, and I love to drink it even now. Right now, I couldn't even be lazy without borrowing the power of alcohol, and this wine comforted me, just a little. At this point, I couldn't go on living without this wine. So in other words, I wasn't alive, but this wine was. Which meant I wasn't Rika Furude, and that I was the wine. Okay. I stared at the Western letters of the brand name written on the wine label, which I didn't know how to pronounce, and thought to myself that it was the name of me. So, it's Frederica Berncastle wine? That's a weird fucking name, right? My name is Rika Furude. No, not that, but this Berncastle. Alright, good job. I don't know what that means. Maybe I'll ask my father. Frederica Berncastle. That's a weird thing to name a wine. Whatever. What a silly name that is. My thoughts began to slur and muddle. Cheers to this shithole of a world. Nice one. So, I guess then question, was this arc written before Umineko Chapter 1 released? Please do say in the comments. Alright, I'm gonna keep going. I'm kidding. Alright. Alright, that was a good episode. Nice beefy one, of course. Like doing that. Yeah. So that's gonna be it for this episode. If you liked it, then be sure to press the like button, and if you didn't like it, then fuck you too. Remember to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date on all my videos and stuff. And as always, my name is Godzi, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye! Yeah.